All right, welcome into another edition, another episode of Beyond the Arc. I'm Bill Ryder, Ashley Nicole Moss, Chris Walker hanging out. We're going to obviously talk a little USA South Sudan and what Steve Kerr needs to do, Kevin Durant's place in Olympic history, maybe the best Olympian in men's basketball perhaps of all time. Did Joel Embiid make a mistake choosing USA over France? My guy Gary Payton got a little ornery and several other things coming up. But first, guys, what's up? This is exciting. I'm ready for this show.
This is very cool. It's our first podcast, the three of us. Chris, you missed a special appearance yesterday. So the end of, well, not yesterday, the last live show that we did.
Monday.
Henry, Bill's son, popped up. And I don't know if you've been told, but when Henry turns 18, he and I are going to get married.
Well, don't. So Ash, be careful because he said hi after the show, had said hi to you and John. And then afterwards he goes, "Is that your friend that you work with?" And I go, "Yes." And he goes, "Is she single?" And I go, "Bro, you're 12. Let's go get dinner."
100, Chris. When we talk about Riz, you see Henry's picture next to it in the dictionary. I don't know how Bill helped create such a cool human being. I mean, I don't get it.
All from my wife. Does Riz transfer to coaching skills? Because if so, where's Steve Kerr? Is he a 30 right now? Is he a 35? Ash, I'll start with you. So we got into this a lot, Chris, the other day. I'll be curious your take too. But Ash, if you want to kick us off, Jayson Tatum got 0 minutes in that game. That was obviously an issue. Joel Embiid didn't get a lot of minutes, but the minutes he got, he was not very impressive. What is the solution you want to see today, Ash, from Steve Kerr with those guys in this team?
It's going to be interesting, right? And when we spoke about this last show, I said, hey, I understand you can't play everybody. I still would have liked to see Jayson Tatum get some minutes in that fourth quarter. Point differential in the Olympics matters. Also, we're talking about FIBA rules, and the physicality and the flow of the game is a lot different. You can't really recreate that fully in practice. It would have just been good for the momentum of Jayson Tatum, who's had a whirlwind of a season with not much rest and things like that. So for me, I would have really liked to have just seen that. It's gonna be interesting, right? Because we were trying to figure out like who would he take his minutes from. I don't think it's gonna be Kevin Durant. I still think that he'll come off the bench with the reserves. I think that Kerr likes Anthony Edwards with KD in that pairing. I think that he likes, the start of LeBron James and Devin Booker. I believe that the minutes will come between a split combination of Joel Embiid, who has just been really struggling to find his groove in this offense. And also, Bam Adebayo can give up some of his minutes as well. Anthony Davis is playing phenomenally well. Jayson Tatum is a very solid defender, but he also gives you scoring, which Bam doesn't really give you much of, at least not with the construct of this current team. So I wouldn't be surprised if the minutes come from those two guys going into this game against South Sudan.
Listen, I'll tell you this. My life as a former coach, that is the biggest nightmare of all. And here's what they say is a good problem to have, guys. A good problem to have is having more talent than you probably really need and trying to split up the minutes, right? That's not easy for Team USA. But I'm going to take a different take from Ashley here. Here's the bottom line. You got a guy who's been all NBA. I know he's Bill Ryder's favorite player in Jayson Tatum.
I love Jayson Tatum.
I'm going to tell you right now. I got to get that, Bill. I'm going to tell you right now. If you want these guys to play, you have to figure that out. Because at the end of the day, it's a world stage. It's the biggest stage. And here you have one of the biggest athletes in the country, in the world, shall I say. He's on the, probably the best player on the best team in the world. And you don't play in 1 minute. When I'm watching the game, I would sit there watching the game. I say, wow, Jayson Tatum must be hurt. I'm in the media. Jayson Tatum must be hurt. Second quarter, Jayson Tatum must be hurt because there is no way they're not playing him. There's no way he's not playing him. What are you thinking?
So, all right, in defense of those of us that are unfairly maligned as Jayson Tatum haters, and in slight defense of Steve Kerr, like I'm with you, Chris. I think he's got to play, but it is a tough task in the sense that these are 40-minute games. Everybody, other than Tyrese Halliburton, who seems cool to just be along for the ride, sort of know his role. And I want to ask you this as a coach, because I know everybody's got to get some minutes. Do you think there's a world where, and I'm not saying 0 minutes because it obviously bothered Tatum, but if you're giving multiple stars 9, 10, 11 minutes to spread out the love, is that going to work for guys that gets the Olympics and they know, hey.
Let me answer that question in reverse, and I'll come back. Why have a team like that then, Bill? Why?
My point
Why build a
exactly,
team that way?
Chris.
That's fair.
Thank you.
You know?
Thank you.
So my thing is, if you're going to build that team, then you have to put them out there. If Colangelo and Krzyzewski and Grant want these guys to be loyal, you already took off Kawhi. How about this? Imagine if Kawhi was on the team, Bill. He was on the team as well. So you're not going to play Jayson Tatum.
Yeah.
And I'll say Embiid, to me, is like, it's a square peg round hole for me with Embiid. And so he's slow. I just don't know how he fits. Obviously, he's a great player. I don't want to besmirch him there, but he's a great player. But it seems like he's not as mobile as Anthony. He's not as mobile as Bam. And it just looks like it doesn't fit. He looked like he should have played for the 92 team. I'm going to be honest with you. That's how Bam looks to me playing with these guys.
That's true.
And then maybe you're playing LeBron too many minutes. And I know we're going to talk about some other things later, but LeBron is 39, is probably playing a lot of minutes. I thought, guys, coming into this, LeBron was going to be a mentor. LeBron was going to be the guy say, okay, you guys, here's your team. I'm here just in case. But he's not become the just in case guy. He's the guy, we got to break the glass.
He's never a mentor.
What's that?
He's never a mentor. I mean, the thing about LeBron is he doesn't share the crown, and that's fine. He's still amazing, but Chris, he's not sharing that crown. LeBron James, but if he was on this roster at 50.
No.
But Chris, I agree with you. Before you move on to your next point, I said this to Bill and John when we were on earlier this week. I said the construction of Team USA as a whole, not just specifically this Olympics. I mean, the Tokyo Olympics was weird because, it was like the pandemic-ish kind of year. So let's take that one out of the equation. But my whole thing is this, in realistic terms, if we're going to be real about this, there's only a few guys who usually play most of the minutes, most of the possessions, are in the rotation. Usually those guys are top 15 players. The rest of the quote unquote randoms, and I'm putting that in air quotes because I don't want to disrespect anyone. Everyone's an NBA player, but the random guys are there to just kind of fill in the gaps. And also the roster needs a certain amount of people. My whole ideology is this. If you're not going to be able to play your all NBA guys, your top 15 guys, and you're not going to be able to go ahead and play them the way they should be played, then why are they there? Why do we construct a roster that is so top heavy with all of these big names when realistically you can't even play them all? It just seems like give these guys a break then. Why are they there in the first place?
And let me say this, certainly
well, look,
just won an NBA championship, guys, and he's first team all NBA, and he's
exhausted.
It's not like not playing Brandon Ingram like they did Brandon Ingram. This is a very different situation. You just cannot do that. And Steve Kerr, of all people, should know that, particularly other guys who are NBA champions and Spoelstra and Ty Lue sitting next to him say, hey, man, you can't do this. You have to put him in the game. And then here's the thing. Once it gets to the fourth quarter, it's too late, guys. And this is why I'll say this, the last point I'll make, is why this team, see to me, your reason why this team is better than the 92 team, in my opinion, is not because of the embarrassment of riches of players that they have, right, in the top 75 and what have you. It's because the competition's far better. Chuck Daly didn't have these decisions to make. They're beating everybody by 50. It's not the case now because the competition is decidedly better. But we can lose even with this team. So by definition, this team is definitely better. And as a coach, you got to be more together and have a team, which again, because of our arrogance and the way our system works, we don't play together as much. And we just throw a team out there, have a training camp and say, let's go beat the world, where almost half of every team plays in the same league as the NBA.
You know what it sounds like? Embiid already played few minutes, but maybe fewer minutes for Embiid, shave a few band minutes off. I know Book was amazing. Maybe take a few of his minutes and just balance it out so Jayson Tatum is getting a little bit of time, because you're both right. If he doesn't play, it's going to be an utter and total disaster. And the guys, because John Gonzalez, Sam Quinn, and Brad Botkin doing a live show after this on our YouTube page, after the game, after this afternoon. So check it out. If Tatum doesn't play, it's going to be a huge, huge issue. I want to make a pitch to you guys. And based on history, I think Chris is going to come at me, and I know Ash has a great take on this. So when we come back, I want to make a pitch why actually the biggest mistake that Joel Embiid has made this entire Olympics is the team he's playing for. Why he should be dressed in the French colors when we come back on Beyond the Arc in just a minute. All right, welcome back into another Beyond the Arc. We are on CBS Sports Network. Ashley Nicole Moss, Chris Walker. I'm Bill Ryder. Remember, you can watch us right now on live TV. You can also check it out wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe. Okay, so I like Joel Embiid. I'm not John Gonzalez. I'm not a Sixers fan. It's not emotional for me. And I think he deserves his MVP. I was happy for him. And obviously, I'm from this country, so go America, go Team USA. But here's my quick take. I think Embiid made a colossal error in judgment in choosing USA as his team over France. This happens a lot in international soccer where you have the right sometimes to choose your country with some options, and you should choose the one that's in your best interest. Embiid has a connection to France, speaks fluent French, got a French passport. This is one of the options. He could have been the leader of this team. They could have built this thing around him. He needs the ball, needs to be the focal point. I know they have a lot of big men, so the fit would have been a little strange, but Gobert can sit. And Wemby could have had a mentor. He could have sort of watched Embiid and the way that Embiid carries himself and waited 4 years to have to be the focal point for that French team that has a really bright future, but it's not their time yet. And Embiid wouldn't have been the disaster he is with Team USA. They would have made it a good fit because he would have been the focal point. And Ash, I know you have a take on this too. I love that he's on USA. If it worked, I think for his own self-interest, he should have gone to France, made them a contender, and allowed these Olympics for him to be about him, where a team would have been built around him.
The reason he didn't go to France is because of his own self-interest. Look, I'm not saying this French national team is not good. I mean, look at the names on this list. We also have the most sought after prospect since LeBron James and Victor Wembanyama. So this is a team that I have watched this entire Olympics, and they're good. I mean, when they went into overtime against Japan just the other day, the game was phenomenal. They went ahead and established their dominance and came out victorious. So this is not like this was going to be a team that was non-competitive, that did not stand a chance to go ahead and place, to go ahead and upset some teams. But if you want to talk about the ultimate goal is to win a gold medal, right? And Joel Embiid knew that his best chance at winning a gold medal was not going to be with the French national team. It was going to be with Team USA. And that is exactly why he reneged on his alleged vocal promise, his verbal obligation to France when he said that he would go ahead and play for them in the Olympics. He knew his best shot at getting that coveted, gold medal was to go ahead and team up with this absolutely monster of a unit. And it doesn't matter if Joel Embiid plays. He obviously is not a fit in this offense, and that's no discredit to him. That's no discredit to his talent. With just the make of this team, it just does not fit the type of style player that he is. It doesn't fit the speed player that he is. LeBron James is really controlling that offense with the starting unit. Kevin Durant's doing it with the reserves. Devin Booker's helping out with that. There's just not a place for Joel Embiid. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter to him. His ultimate goal is to get the gold. So my whole thing is, Joel, play a couple minutes here and there so you can tell your kids one day you contributed. But at the end of the day, this team is going to win gold with or without you. He just wanted to go ahead and make sure it was with him in whatever capacity that may mean.
Wow, that's interesting, the way you frame that. And let me just say this. I don't know if Joel's a fit in the Olympics the way he plays. You're talking about the MVP of the NBA that plays like an old school player. Now, can he make jump shots? Can he make threes? Yes, but he can't guard anybody. And you're talking about chasing players all over the court and, 3-point shooting game. How many times you guys have watched the Olympics? How many times have they thrown the ball in the post and just watch cutters around them all game long? That's just not the way this game is played. And if they do, they throw it to make you come inside or make you help so they can skip it so you can chase and make threes. It's just a different game. And I think
you don't think the physicality of FIBA helps Joel Embiid in his game a little bit? I'm with you. I'm with you on the speed, but the philosophy is right up his alley, but he just can't really utilize that on Team USA. There's no spot for him.
Unlike FIBA play, you can sit in the lane. There's no NBA 3 seconds. So you can't get those same advantages in that same space, even though the lane lines are different. You don't get that same advantage that you get. And you're right, the physicality may allow them to play a little bit harder, but at the end of the day, he's the NBA MVP. Are you serious? We're talking about physicality here for Joel Embiid? But let me I know Bill, you're going to say something. Let me talk about the not playing for France. He is an American now. He wants to be remembered as the dream team guy. if you're in America, I get it. If he wants to, do you want to be remembered in France or do you want to be remembered in America? He played at Kansas. You're talking about branding in the United States. You're talking about trying to be the best player. Again, I love Jokic, but at the end of the day, if you're talking about American players and what he's trying to achieve selfishly, and why would you go play when they have Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert? Where are you going to play?
Because you asked for a passport in order to do so. But you asked the French.
Look,
you asked the French to give you a passport under the guise that you would go ahead and play for them in the Olympics, and then you changed your mind.
Pump fake, Ashley. It's basketball. It's called a pump fake.
You can go, Ash. You can go. My point is, and by the way, I'm going to gently push back. I think Embiid can be very effective in the Olympics if he's on a different team, because that 3-second rule, the lack of it, that can work both ways. When he's utilized properly, he's a remarkable offensive player. There are times in this offense with USA where he pops out for the ball and the ball just goes the other side because America is so good and has so many shooters. They don't need Joel Embiid shooting threes. They have guys who are much better than that. So he's almost superfluous in the offense sometimes. And he doesn't, and every time he gets the ball and goes one-on-one and tries to pound down in the paint, he's taking usage away from Kevin Durant, who's having a miraculous game, or LeBron, who's rolling back the year. So I hear you, but I think that's more of a product of his fit. And I guess we just see it differently because, Ash, you make a great point, and Chris, you make a great point. Ash, I hear what you're saying, get the gold. Maybe it's just me. I would rather take my team to silver. And by the way, Embiid against Jokic in a potential, bronze medal game or a game to get to the final, that is a matchup that I think we've seen can work for Joel Embiid against Serbia. I just think there's more glory in leading France to silver. Yeah. They do. USA is a lock. You take France to glory. I think that says more for your legacy. Maybe it's not what he wants, but I think it's more impressive.
No, France already 3-card Marley us by picking the first 2 picks in the draft. They're not even on the team. We already got 3-card Barley already.
Well, did you see one of those picks in the summer league, Chris? You wouldn't want him on the Olympic team either. Alex Sarr got other issues that he's to worry about right now.
In the greatest league on earth, we got 3-card Marley. They got 2 guys that are not even on their team, and we picked them first in our draft.
They're children.
Think about that.
Alex Sarr had a horrible summer league. You want him to go ahead and play on the Olympic team?
Come on.
He just did a jump shot in the NBA.
I'm just telling you what just happened. Who is Koulibaly? I mean, I don't want to go in on France. I'm just saying. But you talk about
Chris. Nobody that was drafted this year is playing in the Olympics for any of the contending teams. I mean, France, it's not a bunch of bums. I mean, it's a really good team with NBA players. Like no one's playing.
Bill, the first pick in the draft. If LeBron James was coming out right now, do you think he'd be on the Olympic team? Yes.
Is Caitlin Clark on the Olympic team?
I mean, you can't expect these French dudes to be LeBron.
Bill,
Caitlin Clark's not on the Olympic team either, Chris.
Standard.
Bill, the first pick in the draft. How about this? No, first 2 picks in the draft, and neither
best player of all time. You can play on the Olympic team.
But he wasn't the best player when he first came into the league of all time. But anyway, I digress. Here's my other point. You got Evan Fournier and you got Nicholas Batum. Who would you rather shoot threes? Those guys are Embiid. It would be the same situation on every team. He would not be the best 3-point shooter.
It may be somewhat of the same situation in terms from an offensive standpoint, maybe. But I think that our point is that I think he would be better suited. At least he would be utilized more if you're talking about the French national team than Team USA. When you watch him on Team USA, he looks like the odd man out. He looks like a guy who's being put on the floor because of his name, because he is, an MVP, not because he's an actual fit. It just looks like a random pickup on a team that does not need him. Let's go ahead and be honest here. You take Joel Embiid out of the equation of Team USA. This team, 95%, because anything can happen. I don't want to discredit all the other countries and all the other talent that there is going to win the gold without him. He is not a difference maker. I believe in France, he would have been a difference maker in a few aspects. Now, yes, there are still shortcomings of his game that I think he would struggle with because, of speed and things like that. But overall, his fit with France would have been more impactful for their outcome than it is on Team USA. This team is going to win the gold with or without Joel Embiid. That's all we're saying.
All I'm saying is this. I hear what you guys are saying, and it makes sense on paper. But the only thing he would have brought to the French national team, they would probably have the greatest up-and-coming player in NBA history, possibly, probably one of the best defensive players in NBA history after, and they would have a French player who won the MVP. That's it, because one of those guys would have to suffer minutes with him not being on the floor. So I don't know if the chemistry would have been the same, because again, when you throw the ball at Embiid, and you mentioned this before, Bill, he catches it, he holds it. It's a different game. That's all I'm saying. So again, when you throw the ball to Rudy Gobert, if there's any type of switch action, that's when Rudy Gobert can score. They don't throw him the ball and let him ground and pound and shoot jump hooks and stuff. It's a different game. Now, you step Joel Embiid out, that's fine. But if that's your advantage with Joel Embiid, give me a break. Those guys are shooting threes. Watch South Sudan today. They're not going to post up. They're going to shoot threes. How does Joel Embiid fit, whether he's playing for France or Team USA? So if his advantage is not on offense, now, if you're going to say he's going to sit in the lane and play defense in 3 seconds, he's playing against a guy who's playing 27 feet from the basket. It's just hard for bigs. The same way it would have been hard for Ewing, the same way it would have been hard for David Robinson playing in today's Olympics.
All right, great stuff. Spirited conversation. And we've got another one coming up. Is it possible Kevin Durant is the greatest Olympic men's basketball player of all time? And that means something in his legacy competition with some of his teammates. That's next on Beyond the Arc. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Woo, that was a good last segment. I think we got another one lined up for you. So I've gone back and forth, guys, in my career, Ash and Chris, on Kevin Durant and sort of where he ranks. And full disclosure, I'm a Steph Curry guy. But obviously our focus is on the Olympics right now. And he comes into that game against Serbia. And I know it's early, and in retrospect, it was obvious. It seems like we were going to win, but we were struggling. He comes in, and he literally cannot miss for most of the game. He single-handedly turns that thing around. LeBron was awesome, too. You couple that with the fact that he's got 3 golds and he's chasing a 4th, that he is the all-time leading scorer for at least the men's team. Now, he doesn't have the most points in basketball history in terms of men's competition, but he plays for the dominant team in the history of the competition. It struck me, and Chris, I'll be curious your take here. I think he's clearly the greatest men's basketball Olympian in the history of the competition, which is a huge thing. And when we start to weigh at the end of careers where he ranks, right? Is he top 10? Is he top 15? How do you compare him to Steph or some of these other guys? I wonder to what degree maybe we should start considering his Olympic greatness as a significant factor.
Well, I won't say this is a tough one for me. I mean, I think Kevin Durant is a awesome player. I think he's very good. Definitely one of the best scorers ever for his size. I think he's been able to transform the game as far as taller guys that have been able to be, multifaceted the way he has played. Hasn't been great in the playoffs the last few years. I'll throw that caveat in there. But the bottom line is, in the Olympics, which is what we're talking about, he's been fantastic. I'll just say this. A lot of guys don't participate in the Olympics. If we're talking about the greatest Olympic player, and we're basing that just on how him being the all-time leading scorer and him having a chance to win another gold medal, then certainly he's the most accomplished, because again, he's participated the most. And, Melo, he passed Melo's record. Where does Melo stand in a pantheon of NBA player greats? And then you throw Kevin Durant there, if you want to throw that in, right, as a caveat to saying, giving him a vote to make him one of the greatest, does that bump him into the top 10? I know KD is sensitive, Bill, so I got to be careful what I say, because I don't want him to start chopping me up on Twitter or anything like that.
Ash.
But at the end of the day, again, we're talking about, it's a foregone conclusion that the NBA team is going to, basically NBA Olympic team is going to win gold. So is it really a great accomplishment? I mean, I'm not saying it's not, but it's, again, a foregone conclusion, right, Ash, that they're going to win gold every single time, and somebody has to be leading scorer. Is it? And he's participated the most. Does that make him the greatest, or does that make him the most accomplished?
Okay, so here's my thing with Kevin Durant, and I never understand the pushback on it, right? You're going to go ahead and look at what he did in the Olympics, right? He's on the verge of winning 4 Olympic gold medals. Obviously, there's a long way to go to get to that point, but let's go ahead and just say that on the verge of winning 4. I hear what you're saying. He's been there the most. LeBron's also been there a lot. Carmelo's been there a lot. He's gone to 4 Olympics as well, has 3 gold medals, 1 bronze, 1 from 2004 in Athens. So Yes, I mean, if you want to go ahead and kind of play semantics and say, well, he's gone the most, okay, cool, whatever. But when we look at Kevin Durant's career in totality, I mean, we are talking about a two-time world champion. We're talking about a almost four-time gold medalist. We're also talking about one of the greatest scorers we have ever seen, one of the most prolific scorers we have ever seen. To be able to do that at his height, at his size, and also for the length of time that he's been able to do it. I know people like to go ahead and push back against him because of the disaster in Phoenix, the disaster in Brooklyn, how he ultimately left OKC to go to Golden State. But if we're just talking stats, if we're just talking numbers, we're talking an multiple time All-Star, we're talking an NBA 75, we're talking about one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen, one of the most prolific scorers we've ever seen. We're talking about a two-time world champion. We're talking about an MVP. We're talking about a almost four-time gold medalist. What else does this man need to do to prove his legacy to you people? I'm so confused. What else is there?
Well, okay, so I wasn't going to go there, but you asked, and I want to answer your questions. I want to be a good teammate. It's win a championship without Steph Curry would probably be the answer to that question. Look,
thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
I'm going to triangulate this because you can be the most sensitively insecure, thin-skinned person and still be a remarkable all-time great in your field. That was true of F. Scott Fitzgerald as a writer 100 years ago, and I think it's probably true of Kevin Durant now. And good old F. Scott's one of my favorite writers, and I love the way that KD plays. I'll say this. The Olympics thing does sort of change my mind on Kevin Durant. And I don't know if I'd slot him 8 or 12 because there's a lot of amazing players. But our TV producer blew my mind today when he asked me. We were talking about this, and he just said, okay, shotgun to your head, just a quick answer. Larry Bird or Kevin Durant? And I like paused. I froze because I'm always a little partial to Larry Bird because I once interviewed LeBron on TV, and I asked him for his top 3, and he put Larry Bird on there. And that's always kind of like stuck in my brain. But I think the right answer is Kevin Durant. I think on sort of and for me, the Olympics thing, it just pushes it a little further. Ash, it's not even disrespect toward KD. He's a complicated guy. But I think those disasters you cited, when you're trying to measure in millimeters with the top, 15 players of all time, and small things make big differences because they're also good.
What does that matter, though?
I think those disasters matter.
Ask one question?
Chris, you're the same. Chris, hold on real quick. You're the same person who, during the break, when we were talking about our beloved Dallas Cowboys right here, and Bill was cracking jokes, you said what? Football is a team sport. How is that any different than basketball? One person cannot win a championship. Why does Kevin Durant get so much hate for going to the Golden State Warriors and winning not once, but twice? It's not a fluke. He won twice there.
Listen, I got my little baby on the phone right now. If you say that again, Jerry Jones is going to be blowing up my line. So what I'm saying is don't talk about me making off-color comments about the Cowboys. Here's my thing. Ashley and her nice little diatribe that she won about Kevin Durant. You know what she did not say? League MVP. Did you say that? I'm just curious. Has he ever been league MVP? I'm just asking, Bill. Has he ever been league MVP one time in his career? One time.
Two-time finals MVP.
Never league MVP. Deal. I said league MVP now. I was very specific. One time.
Man, you guys, we have some Cowboys on Cowboys crime here.
I'm trying to understand what else is it that he needs to accomplish in his career to get the same respect as his peers. I can understand you not liking or anybody not liking the destination in which he took to get to a championship. I can understand not respecting or not liking the failures in Brooklyn, the failure in Phoenix, maybe even the quote unquote, failure of OKC and how he left OKC. I can understand all that. I'm not saying you have to like the journey, but the numbers and the facts and the statistics remain the same. And I don't understand what else this man needs to prove to go ahead and solidify his legacy. One more.
It's not snarky either. So it's not at the same level as I think what Chris is talking about and the joke I made about winning without Steph. But jokes aside, Chris said earlier that, and you said too, Ash, we are going to win this, right? 95%. USA should win gold. And we should. I think it's the last Olympics probably where that's a lock. I do think that the international reality of the game is going to make it really, really hard. And I think there's a world where, probably not against South Sudan today, but you never know, maybe, where we sort of advance, and when we get to the medal games, where things can get tricky like they did against Serbia early. And Durant, to answer your question, Ash, what he did against Serbia, just coming in, changing the game from a game we were down into, we ran away and we dominated. and really, I think unlocking LeBron a little bit too. Just the way that took the pressure off everybody. If he does that in the semifinals, and he does that in the gold medal game, if it's a competition and Durant is flawlessly the best player on the floor, it's not everything, but it's, to answer your question,
And
that's something for me.
Both of you guys made me think that I was crazy when I called him the MVP. 2013, 2014, when he said to his mom, "You're the real MVP," he was a league MVP. So add that to his list. What else do you want?
I thought he was too.
What is it? 2000.
I didn't vote for him.
Anyway, so let me just say this.
What else
No, that's an MVP
from him.
It's
an MVP.
No.
It's a league MVP. It's a two-time finals
something.
MVP. It's a two-time world champion. It's a three-time
First of all,
gold medalist. What else do you want from him?
First of all, no one was debating whether Kevin Durant was a great player. The question that was posed was, is he the greatest Olympian ever? That was the question. I don't know how it got off on people disrespecting Kevin Durant, because if I wanted to be honest, although he came out and played good against Serbia, the guy who's the best player on the team is obvious LeBron James, because those 5 games that they played, they call friendlies. Without him, we could have lost 3 of them. Let's be honest. Without him on this team.
Play.
What do you mean? I understand that. So what I'm saying is, what you could look a small sample size of KD, which is great, but they played 6 games. And without LeBron, this team looks completely different, in my opinion. Period. So I love Kevin Durant. I think he's great. If we want to say he's the greatest Olympian of all time, I let him have it. I agree. I have no issue with that. But I think his legacy is secure as being one of the greatest ever. But to answer your question, Bill, and I never thought I would say this in a million years, Bill. And I watched that podcast with, I don't know if that was with you or someone else at CBS HQ. All right. When LeBron James said Larry Bird. And then I got to thinking when I was a kid back in the day, watching the Lakers and watching the Celtics, and the way I used to seed watching the Celtics beat the Lakers and how great Larry Bird was back then. All I'm going to say is I got 3 words to that answer. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. Between those 2 guys.
All right.
That's how great Larry Bird was.
Katie, if you're watching and you want to tweet at me and Chris because you're mad from your account or one of your burner accounts, it's Sports Writer for me and Seawalker Sports for Chris. And if you want to thank Ash for having your back, because we might have gone a little too far. Thank you for representing our country, Katie.
Man.
It's at Ash Nicole Moss, right? Did I get that right? It's just Ash.
I'm the only one with common sense.
Yeah, not Ashley.
Bill, just tell Ash. Bill, just tell Ash her job is secure here. She don't have to be Kevin Durant's PR person. I think he has that covered up.
Crazy.
Your job is secure. That was crazy what you just said.
All right.
That's crazy.
Here's something I think we can all agree on. Paul George is not the greatest player of all time. But there's a surprising group of people who see it differently, which gets us into the face of the game at the Olympics and beyond, and that is next on Beyond the Arc. All right, welcome into an entertaining, at times feisty, Beyond the Arc. Ashley Nicole Moss, Chris Walker. I'm Bill Ryder. So this idea of the future face of the league, I think, is really interesting. And my jaw dropped, and I know you're a Melo person, Ash, but when his son, Kiyan, made the argument that his GOAT, right? And I guess everybody gets their own, was Paul George. I couldn't believe it. It got a lot of blowback. And on the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast, Melo had his son on, had PG on, and they talked about some of the controversies that swirled around that perspective.
Or just being like, you know what I mean? Because I know he was getting heat for like, PG, your GOAT, like, and I'm getting heat, like, damn, like, I'm nowhere close to the GOAT. Like, I get it. I'm not close to the GOAT. I'm not the GOAT.
And by the way, he's not the only one who has said this. I think it was Brandon Miller, right, who had a tweet that was basically, so this isn't I mean, there are people out there who actually think this. That, there's another one. Ash, look, you're a Melo person. Take it from here. Where do you come down on this controversy of sorts?
So look, I think this is interesting, right? Because we're always talking about the changing of the guard, and it's Anthony Edwards, and that's face of the league. And has that time finally come? Obviously, I think that with the way LeBron is playing in the Olympics, I think he says, slow your horses a little bit. I still got a couple years left in me. So I think that's interesting, right? But I think that, listen, Paul George is a hooper. I don't think anybody can discredit his skill set and what he's able to do when fully healthy and what he has done in his career in terms of, again, his skill set and things like that. I think what took people aback, and I think what we're going to have to start getting used to, is that no longer when we have these GOAT conversations or the my GOAT conversations, is it just the same three names of usually the pickings of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or Kobe Bryant, right? We always have that argument with those three, and it's always a difference between the GOAT, my GOAT, what that difference is. For me, I've said this all the time, like from a historical standpoint, I can understand that the GOAT is Michael Jordan, but if you're talking about my GOAT and who has had the biggest impact on me, I say this all the time, it's Kobe Bean Bryant. I think when we talk about this next generation, I think we have to really start getting into the mindset that these young kids don't feel the same way about any of those three guys that any of us sitting here on this show do. For them, it's the Steph Currys, it's the Kevin Durants, it's the Paul Georges, it's the, put a name there. I think, and eventually it'll be the SGAs, the Anthony Edwards. I just don't think the era rather of it simply being the big three of Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe has come and gone with this newer generation. They don't care about those guys in the way that we do. They don't see themselves as players in those guys the way that we do, or not we do. We're not players, but current players do. And I think we have to start really absorbing that and understanding it. It's not saying that, Paul George is the greatest thing to ever touch a basketball, but you can understand maybe why this next generation of players see themselves more in that type of player than they do in the larger than life player that is LeBron James. I'm not mad at it.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm mad at it, but I do understand how it's madness. Okay, so how are you saying
he's
that
16.
a player? Again, the question is, who's your GOAT? Who do you model your game after? When Brandon Miller said that, I said, Brandon, are you serious? And I like Paul George. I think he's a really good player. But are you serious, Brandon? Just say, listen, none of us can be LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. Just say that before you preface and say, but my guy is this guy. That's how you should say it, because you can't talk about guys that have never won and say they're your GOAT, and then people respect you.
Yes.
You can have your own opinion, but once you go on X or Twitter and say these things, guys like Chris Walker are going to tear it to shreds. Like,
so Chris,
bro,
if a player came out and said that his GOAT was Carmelo Anthony, would you have an issue with that? With Carmelo?
Yes.
I'm gonna, again, if you say who you modeled your game after or who you liked watching, I'm gonna say, and I love Melo, great player. Right? Really good player. But again, you just mentioned a minute ago about Dak Prescott. Very good player, second in MVP race. But what does everyone say about him? You know what I'm saying?
If you're only able to say your GOAT, if you're only go ahead and we're not talking about the GOAT. When we talk the GOAT conversation, there's only a few names in that conversation. The GOAT and my GOAT are not the same thing. My GOAT is who has had the biggest impact on me, who I think the best player is. That's different from certain person to person.
So you're saying Paul George, let's just dissect it for 2 seconds. Paul George is your GOAT. Now, tell me what Paul George
my GOAT.
No. I'm saying if you're Kiyan Anthony or Miller, now tell me what Paul George has done, and then tell me why he's your GOAT.
You have to ask Kiyan, not him.
Has he led the league in scoring? Has he been a league MVP? Has he been to the finals? What has he done?
Kiyan.
Oh, I know what it is. He has a cool podcast and he has a Nike shoe. My bad. I'm sorry. That's what it is.
Oh my God. Good, Bill.
I like Paul George. He's a great player. I'm sort of with Chris on this. But if I could, I don't subscribe to this worldview, but if I did, my GOAT would be Gary Payton. In part, name drop, because he's a super nice guy who I've hung out with, and in part because even at whatever age he's at, you do not mess with the glove. The glove we're trying to put on the boxing gloves, and we're going to show this is amazing. Do not miss this. We'll show it to you next on Beyond the Arc. All right, so you can catch the Big Three on CBS Sports Network, where you're watching us here on Beyond the Arc. You can see it on Paramount Plus. And Gary Payton, my guy, GP, one of the coaches, hanging out the other day, and he was talking some smack with Jordan Crawford, and things were getting a little heated. And then this magic moment happened.
Oh.
and he's wearing I mean, I like Gary's style too, because it takes a brave man to wear a checkered white and blue shirt. All right, here's my thing. I know Crawford's a lot younger here, but I was in a green room once with GP just shooting the breeze, and he was giving me a hard time because we worked together on camera and we knew each other as a good guy. And someone that didn't know him kind of went at him a little bit, and he went to a dark place fast. That is not a fake tough guy, Chris and Ash.
No.
That do not trifle with GP. Don't do it.
Anybody who can go ahead and square up with a full and say with their chest wearing a blue and white checkered shirt, you don't want to mess with. Just saying.
Listen, I'll say this. GP was one of the toughest guys to ever play in this game. I don't want to say it's much about theater and trying to grab some ratings and to get people to watch the Big Three. But if there's nothing better than getting GP in the middle of something, the glove, he's a little glove-less right now. I don't know if he can get in the stance the way he used to. And
Chris, you are the ultimate conspiracy theorist.
No,
I know that Grant Hill called Jaylen Brown.
They just don't like each other.
Grant Hill has not met you because you are a conspiracy theorist.
Listen, Ice is about ratings. He writes movies. He understands. He tried to get Caitlin Clark to come in. It was going to give her $5 million. Again, they needed to drum up a little energy and feistiness. And who better yet? Think about it. Of all the people, the glove. Didn't probably have to tell him twice. He said, "I'll do it for free."
I think that's real anger, Ash. I think that's real. There are some guys you don't mess with that play in the NBA that aren't big dudes. I mean, Matt Barnes is one of them. Side note, not making judgments. Don't date people's wives. That's also like a good rule to live by, right? I mean, Dre, would you classify Dre as I think Draymond's a real tough guy.
You know who else is a tough guy
dude,
that I have heard stories about that you do not want to mess with him? DeMar DeRozan. I have heard that don't let DeMar fool you with his calm exterior and all that stuff. There have been multiple stories on multiple podcasts. The information is out there if you want to look it up. I think it was I'm trying to think Vince Staples, who's a popular rapper. They asked him about, and he just like froze up. And he's like, "Yeah, you don't want to mess with DeMar. Like you don't."
That's a surprise.
I've heard DeMar can get crazy if he has to.
I love Gary Payton and his toughness. But when you got Jake Paul calling out Mike Tyson because he's older now, that lets you know how these young guys think of what's going on. If we got guys saying Paul George is their GOAT, these young guys, listen, anything is worth it.
Hopefully,
nothing's off the table.
Hopefully Mike Tyson, even though he's 105 years old, takes care of business and there's a reminder of what toughness is. This was a great show.
You don't got to do this, Mike. You don't have to do that, Mike.
Mike, do it. You just win it. Just win it for everybody. We're rooting for you like we did in The Hangover. Thank you to Ashley, Nicole Moss, and Chris Walker. By the way, bonus show. We don't usually do 2 shows in a day. So obviously USA South Sudan coming up. As soon as that's over on our YouTube page, go over there. Live show. John Gonzalez has you covered. The very talented Sam Quinn, the very talented Brad Bakken going to be there as well. So you can check out this show that we just did and all of our shows wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, like, download, listen. Yell at me and yell at Chris the way that Ashley understandably did a couple times. It's fine. You can yell at us in your car. But live shows as well here on CBS Sports Network, and we've got one on YouTube as soon as it comes to an end with John and Sam and Brad. So check it out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with us here on CBS Sports Network. This is Beyond the Arc. And again, bonus show as soon as USA South Sudan is done on YouTube.